Hello, this is Juan from Juan's Garage and your garage tip of the day. Well, this time we're in the kitchen again. So you might have had an issue where you turn on your oven. Let's see, we set this guy here to cooking mode, bake, and we just hit start. And then we say start again. You wait a few minutes and nothing happens. All right, so let's just turn it off. I'm going to explain 90% of the time what the problem might be. Now, if you want to test your oven, you have a broiler. So you can go to cooking mode and select broil and then hit start, and it starts to broil. Now the broiler is going to be up on top, okay? And I don't know if you can see it, but as soon as it gets going, it'll turn on. So that'll give you an indicator that your main gas valve is working, but it's just your lower igniter isn't working. So more into that in a minute, okay? So you open your oven and you look inside, and it's a big mystery. What is in here? Well, first of all, you got to take these racks out, which I will. And this bottom plate, we're going to take it off to expose the igniter. And I'll explain more, okay? Also, there's a trick to taking this whole door out. I'm going to see if I can figure out and share with you folks how to do it. All right? So every oven has its way of taking the door hinge off so you can remove the entire front door. And this guy here is, you pull these little clips up on either side. Sometimes they're kind of hard. You get a screwdriver on there, pop it up, pull it back, and then you can lift the whole door out of here, okay? This door will lift up and then you can pull it out. It's kind of heavy, but it'll come out. So that's what's next. I'm going to pull this door out of here. So now with the front door removed, I can get, and I pulled the trays out. You have this guy here that has to come up. You have two screws, one here in the back, and a lot of these ovens work the same, okay? There's nothing to it. Just undo them if you need to get a screwdriver and take these things loose, okay? So I'll take that loose and I'll show you what's in between. So I have one light here. It looks like I've got a light out, so I got to get another light bulb to fix that. Okay, so once we have the cover off, we can come in here and you can see what we're talking about. Now this little guy right here, he's what you call your igniter. And what that does is when you give the oven a command to turn on and set your temperature, this little guy will glow super hot. Okay, now part of the control circuit, it will sense that this guy is on and he's passing a certain amount of current, which will translate to either current or millivolts. And it'll go back to the control board. The control board turns on the main gas line to this guy here. The gas comes out, hits the glowing igniter, and it starts up your flame, okay? So what's happening is this guy has failed. And it's happened before, and I never did a video on that. But so what do? You spend $30, a little bit of time to replace it, or you go out and spend another $2,000 on a brand new stove. I don't know. You make the call. So next step is to pull the oven out so I can access the back, because that's where it's wired into. So we'll do that next. So what I forgot to mention is, 95% of the time, it's going to be that guy, if not 99% of the time, why your oven won't start. So where do you order an igniter? Well, it starts with coming over here to the side. Somewhere you're going to see a nameplate. Get a picture of your nameplate, find the model number, and just go to Amazon or wherever on the internet and look for the igniter for your model range. It's going to be generic most of the time, and they have different prices. You know, buy the one that you feel more comfortable with and go with that. There really isn't a huge difference between, if you buy the original manufacturer one, you're probably going to spend 3 times as much. You buy the aftermarket one, you spend a quarter, maybe a third of what the cost is. But anyway, you order it and they usually come in like a day, so you're only out of your oven without a day. Now here's a hack. If you need to, the broiler up here also has an igniter. You can take that apart and you can swap that igniter. It's going to take a little bit of work, but you can unwire it, remove it, and place it down here, and it'll get you out of a pinch. I had to do that one year when my wife was going to cook our Thanksgiving turkey, and the oven wouldn't start. So luckily, the broiler has an igniter, and I was able to swap them. And ordered the replacement and fixed it later. So something to be aware of is that often your appliances are going to have metric fittings. So for example, this is a 10 millimeter, right? So have a set of metric tools on hand and also torque screwdrivers. Okay, so that's a T20 for these screws right here, all right? Well, they're not going to be your regular Phillips. The chances are you're going to have torque screws and metric size wrenches. It's rare anymore that they have fractional. A lot of this stuff is built overseas and they use metric. Anyway, so we've got this part. Now you can see that wires feed to the back, so when you replace it, you have to feed the new one and feed the wires to the back. So once you gain access to the back of your stove, you want to take a few safety precautions here. Unplug the stove so you don't get zapped. And you'll see this valve here. This is your gas valve. Whenever you see the handle in line, that means that whatever, if it's gas, fluid, water, whatever it is, can flow through, okay? So what you want to do is you want to take this and rotate it so that it is no longer in line, but it is crossed. When it's crossed, that means your valve is closed, okay? So gas comes through here, stops here, all right? There will be a little bit of residual gas here, but we're not going to disconnect it because we don't have to, all right? Next though, we're going to come back here and we're going to take off a bunch of screws. Find out where your screws are that hold onto your panel. For example, like these and this, and just take them off. This panel will come off so that you can have access to your wiring down below. And here's a wiring schematic if you want to look at that and study it. I typically don't. You really don't have to. You're only dealing with 2 wires, so just take note of what you disconnected and connect it back where you did. I'll show you more about that later. Okay, so at this point you have the rear cover off, and you can look at this thing, and that's your control board. You don't have to mess with that. And this is your gas valve, and this is your gas controller valve right there. This guy here, here's your main gas controller valve. So these wires here, okay, go to, now you can see they have this heat insulation on there. So those are the ones you're gonna tap into, okay? So let's go around the front and I'll follow up there. So at this point, it would be nice if you had somebody in the back, right, that can help you out. That way, you can tug on these wires here, and they can identify them in the back, okay? And they can tell you which ones they are. So you also see a little bit of daylight back there. Now, what you want to do is you want to take your new igniter, okay? And you can feed your new igniter wires back here through the daylight, and you can identify them. You can grab them in the back and you're ready to connect, okay? Now, because we don't have anybody helping me, we're not going to use this igniter anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these wires here. I'll snip these off. I'll snip this other one off here, if I can see it. Here we go. Snip, snip. Ah, turkey. What's going on here? Alright. There we go. Got it. So now here's the old one. He's no good. Now, these are not polarized, so you don't have to worry whether it's positive, negative. All you need to do is feed them back through here. Now here's something important. This heat insulation, you're gonna have to use it for the replacement one. So I'm gonna pick up where we left off in the back, okay? Okay, now we're in the back, and I shoved some of these already. So here's one of them that we cut, okay? And the other one looked like it might be this guy here. So I pull him, and sure enough, there he is, okay? And now the wires that we fed through, these are the new controller wires. Now these have connectors on them. They may or may not match the connectors on your controllers. So the new connector will give you these little, what we call twist locks, or, okay, here. So you can strip the cables and fasten them there, and you'll be fine. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna take this insulation off, probably cut these guys, and just fasten them to these, okay? I'll show you next. Okay, so this is one of the cables. I cut the connector off so that we can feed this insulation over it, okay? And then I took apart the, this is the connector that goes to your valve, okay? So I pulled that off of here. And now I'm going to connect it to this guy here, twist it now that I've stripped it a little bit, and then I'm going to fasten it with one of these, okay? You just twist it on in the right-hand direction, okay? So that's next. Okay, so after sliding the insulation on that wire, I twist lock this guy here, and now I can put him back on the valve connector in here, okay? Kind of hard to see, but my hand's in the way. But I'm going to connect it where I took it off from. Okay. Okay, now the same thing with the other conductor. Okay, I'm going to pull the insulation off. Okay, off the old wire. And that one is made up here. Okay. And this is the new one. I'm going to cut the end off, because we're going to terminate here, okay? I'm going to slide the insulation on it, and we'll undo this, and we'll terminate right here, okay? Just like we did the last one. Okay, so now that we have all of our wires connected back together, this little guy here, plugged in there, this other little guy here, where's he at? This guy here, trapped together. We're ready to go and remount the igniter on the front side. Okay, now back in the front side, you have your old igniter. We can get rid of this guy here. And you have your new one. And it's wired up. You have the insulation sleeves on it. Okay. Now, remember how this goes. That's something you should do. Maybe take pictures or video of how your igniter was on there previously, okay? So it goes like this. I got to put the hardware through here and bolt it up, and I'll do that, and I'll pick up where I left off. Okay, so now with the igniter remounted, okay, nicely, everything there, we can start to put the oven back together again. We'll put the top here back on, the trays back on, put the front door back on, put the cover back on the back, and reconnect it, and away we go. Okay, now with the rear cover back on, we can plug the unit back in. And we can turn the gas valve on, okay? Turn it, rotate it, and make sure that the handle is going in line with a pipe. You're good to go. Okay, now that I have the stove back in place, I'm gonna select the cooking mode. I'm just gonna leave it bake. And I'm gonna say temperature 350, that's fine. And I'm gonna press start. Okay, now what's gonna happen down here is we're gonna see the igniter glow don't know if you can see it yet or not, but I'm gonna keep an eye. There it is, okay. You see that glowing thing in there? It's really hard to see it, but there it is. That's your igniter glowing, okay? Now, as soon as it comes to temp, now then the flame comes on. You see that? Okay, that's how your oven normally works, all right? So, success. It didn't do that before, and after changing the igniter, it works. So, although I turned it off, the oven is going to go through a process where it's going to burn up all the gas that's left inside of the line, so it kind of purges it, and it's going to turn off, okay? So now let's put the cover back on and the trays back in, and that's all there is to it. It's not a real big issue. It's pretty simple, straightforward, remove and replace. Your igniter will go out eventually, and they have different styles. It may not look like this, it'll look like something else, but 95% of the time, that's what's wrong with your oven, okay? All right, guys, so this is Juan from Juan's Garage, signing off again, and I hope this helps. If you have any questions, just message me in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer. All right, guys, have a great day.